There's a sad story told about a plane in distress with smoke coming out of its engines, and the pilot emerges from the cockpit, walks down the aisle, wearing and strapped into a parachute, and he tells everyone, "Don't worry, folks, I'm going out to get help." It's a sad story, but we actually lived through events. I remember in 1991, there was a ship called the Oceanus, just off the coast of South Africa, where there was a ship in distress and the pilot simply left. It happened more recently in 2012 with the Costa Concordia in Italy, where again the captain simply just left the ship and the passengers who were in his care and went on to take care of himself, leaving behind mayhem. Responsibility in leadership is fundamental. And that is why in South Africa, when we watched the events unfolding in the last few days of a past president being held accountable for state capture, for being accountable for the law, being responsible in front of the law, and that the showdown, which was evolving, where the possibility was that there was a leader that stood above the law and did not have to be accountable to the law, would cause a destruction of the entire society. And that is why we breathed a sigh of relief when we saw that, in fact, every individual must stand before the law and every individual must be accountable, and particularly so when it comes to leaders. And the Torah has an interesting insight when it comes to leadership this Shabbat, when it talks about a situation where somebody has inadvertently killed somebody else. It is not something that he intended. He actually did not want it to happen, but somehow through his act, another person lost their life. And this person is now in a very serious predicament. The family wants to avenge the blood of the victim, and the Torah tells us to set aside a city of refuge, in fact 6 of them and more, and it was a city in which such individuals would be able to be protected and also have an environment in which they were able to revisit what happened in their life and hopefully work out a way forward in their life. But how long did they spend in the city of refuge? And it is strange that it's an arbitrary amount of time, seemingly dependent on events that have nothing to do with him or the events that took place. The Torah tells us how long does the inadvertent killer have to remain in the city of refuge, in that protection of that city. It is as long as the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, lives. When the high priest passes away, he can go home. It seems to be hinged and dependent on an event that has nothing to do with him and nothing to do with the event. It might be 1 week until the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, passes away, and it might be 50 years. What in heaven's name does his staying in the city of refuge have to do with the Kohen Gadol? What linkage is between the event that transpired in society, that somebody by mistake caused the death of another human being? What does that have to do with the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, at all? And one of the explanations presented by Rashi is remarkable. It says that the Kohen Gadol is relevant to this event because the Kohen Gadol has to think about the event and think about what he, as an individual empowered with spiritual authority and responsibility, having the capacity to pray and to affect the Jewish people so profoundly, the Kohen Gadol has to think that I do everything I could that might have averted such a tragedy in society, that I utilize every aspect of my power and my leadership to ensure that society does not have a disastrous situation such as that which unfolded. And for that reason, the Kohen Gadol is linked to the event. He wasn't there. He has every reason to say that he doesn't know the individual. He didn't see what happened. He happened to be in a different place at a different time. The Torah holds leadership so accountable that because you are in a position of authority, what have you done that can make a difference to people around you? And it is such a profound lesson for all of us, because it's not only about the high priest and the Kohen Gadol and leadership of such greatness. We are all leaders. We are all accountable. We are fathers, we are mothers, we are husbands, we are wives, we are adults. We are people playing a role in our business affairs, involved in the public sector. We all have areas of responsibility and authority. And the Torah is telling each and every one of us, when something happens in society, the response is, what could I have done? What should I be doing with my life that might contribute to society in a way that would help such an event not to take place? Have I fulfilled every element of the strengths that have been given to me, and the authority invested in me, and the expectations that society has of me? Have I lived up to every area and element of my responsibility which could have made a difference to society? It is remarkable that the Torah tells us that leadership is accountable. Leadership is responsible. May all of us rise to the responsibilities of the leadership that we have in whatever area it may be, and be the catalyst for positivity, for strength, for reinforcement. And please God, as we enter into the last days before Tisha B'Av, the most serious, sad time of the Jewish calendar year, may we exercise our abilities and responsibilities to affect a world that is redeemed, that is uplifted, because we've made a difference for good. Have a beautiful Shabbos.